Hey, your boy Dan Dakich here. Let's talk about media. Let's talk about woke media and what happens to woke media. You know, it was 2002 when Around the Horn first premiered on ESPN. Now, as I've told you many times, I'm a guy that liked sports writers back in the day. I'm a guy that read all kinds of different people from the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Sun-Times, and the Gary Post Tribune. I mean, I read Royko. Those of you that are old enough will remember the great Mike Royko. When I was like 10 years old, I read it cover to cover, the Tribune, Sun-Times, and the Gary Post Tribune. So I understand and liked the media. Same thing with this old show they had on Channel 32. I don't know the numbers of it, W whatever, whatever, whatever. But it was Channel 32, a bunch of old sports writers sitting around smoking cigars, talking about Chicago sports. That evolved into the sports writers on ESPN, which evolved into Around the Horn, and it was all right. Like Max Kellerman was the host, and guys and gals got on there, and they start talking about sports and arguing about sports. And the idea was nobody ever wins sports arguments, but we're going to make a winner. We're going to deem you the winner, and we're going to keep track of your wins and losses. Not going to lie, I was all right with that. You know, Woody Page from the Denver Post was kind of a fun guy with his hair and a little sign behind his back, and it was all right. But then something happened. You know what happened, man. We got into the woke. We got into the social justice. We got into the lying. And people like David Dennis Jr. were hired to come on the show simply to be social justice advocates, yo. Women were put on the show like Courtney Cronin that literally didn't know their ass from third base. And next thing you know, it became a haven for the Sarah Spains of the world, the Foxworthys of the world, the Pablo Torres of the world, basically the cool, woke ESPN children that had nothing to add with sports, nothing. You tell me what Sarah Spain is going to add to a sports conversation other than nothing. You tell me what Pablo Torre's background is that he's going to add to sports, nothing. So instead of Woody Page, a longtime writer, Colin Shaw, even that Blackistone, you had people on there now that had no interesting takes, that had nothing to give. And also, here it comes, a wokeness that was not only shining and permeating through the show, but was encouraged by the show. And it was only a matter of time. It was only a matter of time before people said, yeah, I ain't doing this. Nah, I ain't doing this. And people stopped watching, and people stopped paying attention. And people said, I can go other places for my politics. It's simply what happens when you go woke, particularly when you go woke with only one side. See, I have no problem, or I would have no problem with ESPN and others. We should have respectful debate among liberals, conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, the middle, libertarians, whatever. But that doesn't happen on ESPN. And it certainly does not happen or did not happen as it comes to a close on Around the Horn. Now, the liberal media is bemoaning it. Sites like Awful Out Now Singer saying, what are we going to do? Well, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to hopefully somewhere, somehow, some way, somebody, see what I do with the sums there? At ESPN comes up with the genius idea of let's have a show that has actual sports debate without politics. You know what that show for the most part has been, except that, well, Wilbon has seen cap money and understands in his community he's got to be a little bit tougher on the social justice issues. It's PTI. Look, both of the guys on PTI are incredibly left-leaning. I mean, Kornheiser, Wilbon, they worked at newspapers. What do you think they are? They worked at the Washington Post. What do you think they are? But you know what? They kind of keep it out, and their show is still enjoyable to watch even after all these years. ESPN, if they do truly want to delve into the world of sports television, into the world of sports, social media, social justice discussion, they should do what we all should do and have a nice debate. When did we lose the ability for two people to discuss politics, sports and politics, social justice, social change, whatever words you want to use? The left is so incredibly intolerant that I have seen actually on, I think it was Mar, or maybe it was Joy Reid, a lady who is in charge of mental health at Yale, say, look, family isn't real. Family is just made up by society, and you have no obligation, nor should you participate with family members this holiday season who voted for Donald Trump. How silly is that? How entitled is that? How bratty is that? I think that's one of the words that was used about that lady and the left. Just bratty. Like, I'm a little brat. You don't believe what I say, I'm going away. My suggestion to ESPN would be, why not have adults? Whether you like Joe Lieberman or you like Dick Cheney, their debate back in whatever election they were running with the younger Bush was awesome. They sat at a table next to each other and had a respectful exchange of ideas. We don't have that anymore. We have somebody at Yale, because they're crazy ass left leaning, talking about, don't talk to your family. They're bad people because they voted a certain way. And we have the same craziness on the right, the far right. Okay, neither are any good. They both suck. Sports programming is no different. You turn on Around the Horn, you're as likely to get David Dennis Jr. telling white people they suck as you are to hear about the Red Sox. And that, in fact, sucks. You look at somebody and you say, what gives you the right? Now, I wouldn't even mind it Around the Horn if they did that, as long as they balanced it the other way. Have somebody having a conversation. But as we all know, it's impossible. Saturday at the Ohio State game, I want to use someone's restroom. I want to use it because here's what happens. In the RV lot, you can rent a porta potty. I was walking back from the game. The place was pretty cleared out, and I had to go to the bathroom. The RV, the bus I was on was a little bit down. I had to go. And when you're my age and you got to go, you either better wear a Depends, find a tree, or a bathroom. I asked some lady, I said, do you mind if I use your restroom here? She looked at me and she said, sure, really nice lady, nice looking lady. What's your story? I go, my story? My story's simple. And I always want to engage the Ohio State thing. I said, I played basketball at Indiana. My son played basketball here. I do a TV show in the morning and a radio show in the afternoon. Oh, what's your TV show? What's it on? I said, it's on OutKick, a fast-growing network. Oh, where can I find it? I said, a lot of places, YouTube, OutKick.com, a lot of places. Well, that means you're right. I said, I'm always right. She said, no, your politics are right. I said, yeah. Well, how do you justify voting for Trump? And I said, well, I'm getting a little annoyed at this point because I got to go to the bathroom. Frankly, I think the Democrats, and I was a former Democrat, grew up in Gary, Indiana. I think the Democrats put the worst candidate in the history of the world out there who had no vision and didn't connect with the American people. She got mad. I could see steam. Her friend was next to her. Her friend looked at me and she was the angrier one. Well, do you have kids? I go, yes. I have a beautiful daughter, a beautiful stepdaughter, an awesome son, and an awesome stepson. Well, what do you tell them about abortion? I said, I'll tell you what I tell them about abortion. I told my daughter there are 11 kind of birth controls, not including don't spread your legs for jackasses. You'd have thought I hit them in the heart. You'd have thought I stabbed them right in the heart. The one lady had to put her head on her friend's shoulder, and I think she was getting ready to cry. Well, what about rape and incest? I said, that's why Trump put it to the states. I said, because every state needs to just open that up and make sure, well, we can't in Ohio, and a little girl had to go to Indiana. I said, there's a lot more to that. No, there's not. And one woman started crying. Her husband came over, and I looked. I said, how you doing? What's going on? I said, I think I upset your wife, girlfriend, whoever. And he's like, it's cool. And I walked away. And as I walked away, I gave the Breakfast Club salute at the end of the Breakfast Club. Somebody got so upset just by having a simple conversation. That's sad, really. Somebody could come up to me and tell me Donald Trump is the biggest blah, 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 blah. And I'd say, you're probably right. Let's talk about it. Why do you feel that way? That's how we should have discourse. But that's not what Around the Horn was. Around the Horn was pounding it into us, pounding and pounding and pounding. People's views, like Courtney Cronin and others, who really don't know their ass from third base. It's like my friend Greg Bozak, who owns car dealership, always says, man, if you haven't been divorced, if you haven't been married a long time, if you haven't had to make payroll, if you haven't had to raise kids, I'm not sure I want to hear from you on politics. It's true. And he's tolerant. I'm the same. Why can't we just have discord? Back to awful announcing or Around the Horn. Around the Horn fell victim to its own stupidity. It made the decision we're going to get political. It made the decision we're going to hire people specifically for politics, and we're not going to tolerate another view. And now it goes away. And now people with the same view, like the folks at Awful Announcing and other left-leaning media sites, are sad about it. Good. As I tell my kids when they were little, you're sad, you're mad, go over there, nose in the corner, and go be sad or mad. Let me know when you're not. And we'll come back and we'll go play baseball. Awful Announcing, you keep doing you. You keep defending the indefendable. And I notice your side isn't really growing. Go woke, go broke. Around the Horn, just another example.